So I got me a new miter saw stand. This is a rigid miter saw utility vehicle, they call it. Gone on sale for $100. And my problem is sometimes I buy stuff without really having any room for it. Here in my 2-car garage, which is attached to the house, I'm using pretty much every bit of square footage I can in this place. The stand itself can actually collapse down and I can hang it up on the wall no problem. But once I put the miter saw feet on, I'm having a hard problem getting this on the shelf, and I really didn't like putting this on the shelf that I've got. It's just hard to get in and out of real easy, and even with the feet, it's not that great. So what I want to do is, I'm going to hang the stand up here, which is self-explanatory, and I want to put the miter saw where I can hook it onto the wall, pretty much replicating the tubing that's on the stand, but putting it on the wall. All right, the first thing we're going to do to make this easier for measuring and placing everything out, I'm going to take this, is what I'm going to call the power head assembly, which is the main motor and arm, away from the main base and the bracket. That should make it a whole lot easier to carry, hold it up to get my measurements, because this whole thing probably weighs, it feels like 60, 70 pounds at most. I mean, they're pretty heavy. There's a big giant nut on the back here. It's about 15/16 for this model. And you also got to take off there's a bolt that goes through for the bevel lock. Your model is going to be different, I'm assuming. But a lot of people have this Ryobi model, so that's how you take that one apart. Now with the power head removed, it makes this a whole lot easier to move around, a lot more lighter weight. And what we're going to be replicating is this 2-bar system, pretty much in parallel. Let me measure these. I think I'm almost positive majority of these stands are all the same, probably about 1 inch and 3/4. So I'm getting 1.772. So yeah, a little bit over 1 inch and 3/4, but close enough to it. What I have here today to work on this is, it's the holidays right now and everything's closed, so I kind of want to do this with all the scrap I can. I have these are treadmill rollers, and they are measuring about 1.625, about 1 5/8. These are 1 5/8, so it's slightly less than these bars right here, and that should fit in there nicely. When you're going to look at pipe, if these are all the same, if yours is about 1.75 or close to it, I would go with 1.5 inch EMT conduit, because the OD on those is 1.74, I believe, according to standard. When you go to Home Depot or wherever you're going to try to find the correct size tubing, I'd probably just take one of these brackets with you and see if it fits in the curvature of the bracket, see if it'll be a good fit. But anyway, took treadmill rollers, welded them together. I got 4 of these, or combined into 2, to make 2 parallel pipes. One way to bracket these on the back side, now this is kind of a more expensive option. They have a product called Unistrut, or Home Depot calls it like Super Strut. You see this a lot in commercial buildings, but you can use the holes, mount this to the wall, and they make special EMT or tubing brackets that go around and makes it easier to move and position. The problem is each one of those brackets are like $3.50 for this alone, $14 worth of brackets, and this strut could be 10 to 20 bucks. Again, I'm trying to do this with scrap material for what I got. So my plan is to take a plywood backer here and pretty much put 2 pieces of wood drilled in from the back, and then put the pipes in here and actually drill a hole to kind of just drill a hole like this. Now what you could do, there's about 3 different ways you can do this. It's all personal preference. You could drill the hole and you can have it loose, and then after you got everything sized and done, as long as your brackets right here fit within the boundaries of these, what you could do is put this in here loose and put a piece of plywood end cap there to keep these, make these captive, keep them from sliding out. Another thing you can do is you can drill a hole through the wood, through the pipe, and out the other side, and then put a nail through all two pieces here, and that'll keep this moving from side to side and also keep it from rotating. Let's go ahead and do some holes on these. I'll probably trim these down to size and we'll go from there. I know on my setup, this is again, this is scrap plywood. This is the only size plywood I pretty much have that will even decently work, and it's not big enough to go on the outside of my brackets. So the brackets would be dead where these wood pieces are. So I'm gonna have to move these internally and have my pipes stick out a little bit. So this will grip it from the outside. All right, so another critical dimension you need to measure on your stand before putting this little bracket, whatever you want to call it, together is you need to measure the outside edge here to this outside edge. And on this rigid particular stand, I'm measuring dead at 10 3/4. Again, yours may be different, so make sure you take that measurement. And this will dictate to us how we need to space our pipe. Now, we're not going to do this identical to it. We're going to try to get that 10 3/4 or your outer edge measurement on the tubing that you're using. But if you're using a smaller diameter, the center to center distance on here will be different than what you make on the bracket. Because if you're using a smaller diameter pipe, you have to shift the pipe farther away from each other to get that outer edge to outer edge distance. So to figure out how far the center to center distance is on the bracket that you're going to make, you take your measurement, which here we got 10 3/4, and you subtract a diameter of the pipe you're using from that measurement, because it's center to center plus a radius out and a radius out here. Well, 2 times the radius is diameter. So when you subtract the diameter from the overall edge to edge, you get the center to center. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. All right, so I figured out my center line here. So my diameter again on my pipe was 1 5/8, so 1.625. Subtracting that from 10.75 gives me 9 1/8, and that's what I marked here, the distance here. And I just kind of centered this on the board as best I could. I'm just setting it 3 inches away here. But anyway, I got my marks for my center drill. What I'm using to drill these holes, I'm using an expansive boring bit. It's where this piece right here can slide in and out to make the hole, the diameter bigger. This is the only kind of hole saw I have this big that's actually worth a crap. I have some hole saws, but they're real flimsy ones I got. I don't trust them, and I don't have any spade bits big enough, which I don't think they make them. You know, once you get up to this size, I don't think they make them like that. The only issue with this bit is it's got a tapered shank to it, so I'm gonna have to switch over to my old, brace here to do this job. But that's fine. The brace actually works really well. It can give me enough torque to get through this big hole here. You may want to do this on a piece of scrap wood first if you're using one of these expansive bits, and that way you can get your diameter set. Just put it in again where that pipe's, it's just holding it in a little bit, and it's not too terribly loose. All right, so got both pieces done here with the holes. So the next thing you got to do is you need to determine your spacing of how far apart to put these. Like I said, on mine, since this board is shorter, or too short, I'm gonna have to put these on the inside. Now, one thing you got to do is you got to make sure that you give yourself plenty of clearance for these little nuts, you know, sticking off, and then, you know, the heads, and make sure there's plenty of room there. So that's about 15.5. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that I'm gonna space the outer edges 15 and a quarter. So I went ahead and transfer those marks here, so they should show up or look like that right there. All right, so I went ahead and shot some screws, you know, through the back here to hold this in place. Now we'll see how this works out, hopefully. There we go, they're kind of loose. When you're doing this, make sure that area where you got the latches where it's curved more, that'll be at the top. That way it grips the wall better. So put that down in place. Make sure I got enough stick out here. Wow, that's pretty, that's on there. It actually feels better than I thought it would. And these, I can't move the pipes where these grip it. I think if I just pop a nail, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drill a hole here and kind of stake the pipe in. And the only reason for it is just to keep it from moving in and out, just to keep it centered. There's really no reason to keep it from rolling because it clamps it so well. So all I have to do now is I'm gonna mark my excess. I'll cut these pipes off, and then we'll look at getting these tubes staked in. All right, so I went ahead and get the tubes cut down the length. You could use a hacksaw, especially if it's EMT. That stuff cuts easy. This is some pretty thick wall stuff, so I used an old pipe cutter. This actually works great for stuff like this, especially if it's a little bit thicker wall. So yeah, I went ahead and shot a screw, drilled through, did a screw, and it's holding it in place pretty well. I'll go ahead and do another one here. Make sure everything's lined up, and just get you a good sharp drill bit. There you go, drill all the way through. Get you a screw. These are screws that only go all the way enough to go, or only long enough to go into the inside of the tube. They won't go all the way through to the other side. All right, so there's that. Got on. Just really all you need is just one side. I'm gonna go ahead and do both. All right, so after I got the screws put in, I took the miter saw base and the new bracket I built and put it up against the wall to kind of see where I wanted to put it. Once I figured that out, I pulled it down, took the miter saw base off, put the bracket back on the wall, pre-drilled into the bracket into a stud, put a screw through, and that way I could pivot it for level. And then I pre-drilled a couple more holes, screwed it in, took the miter saw base, clipped it back in for one final check. Then I reattached the power head assembly back to the miter saw base and did a final attachment to the wall, and everything looks sturdy. All right, that pretty much wraps this video up. It's on there, it's done. This is all there is to it, unless you want to paint it or something. The final method that I use, where you just take the 2x4s, drill the holes, and shoot a screw through. That's pretty much, I think, the best method. I said before that you put plywood on the end caps. I don't think it's needed. This is really simple. You know, this is not a bad little project here on Christmas Day when nothing else is open. I had to use all scraps. The only thing you may not have is the correct size tubing. I just happened to be lucky and happened to be a pack rat and save some of these old treadmill rollers, but an EMT would probably be about the only thing you'd have to go out and buy. And I think that may be $10 a stick. I've seen this before. I tried typing in miter saw stand brackets hanging on a wall, using the brackets. There's only one video I could find. I'm gonna put the link to that one below, just so you can get an idea of something else that's out there. Because this is, you don't have to do it my way. This is just to give you an idea. Another guy, what he did is he put a piece of unistrut channel on the wall with the opening facing up, and he had a Dewalt style stand, which it has kind of like a bump, like a notch right here, like it's almost made to be hung up. And so he could hang it on that open end lip and be fine. The only difference is if somebody came by and hit it, hit the slide rail right here, it'd probably fall off easy. This one is actually clamped in, so it's fully secure. I just wanted to put the miter saw right next to where the stand's going to be. It's right here. You saw it in the other shots. I just wanted to be all in the same place. I didn't want it on a shelf. I want all the shelf space I can get, and this was just kind of dead space right now, and so might as well use it. So if you guys like this video, like it, put a comment below how you think you've done it, or if you got links to other videos of other ways I'd like to see it. And if you like this kind of stuff, subscribe to the channel. And thanks for watching.